Hi, welcome back to Ask Angela, a video series in which I answer viewers' questions. In this video, I'm talking all about rulers. It's one of the questions I get asked a lot as I travel and teach machine quilting classes. Do I use a ruler? And if so, which kind do I use? In this video, I'm going to show you my favorite ruler, as well as give you some tips on how to use them on your long arm quilting machine. Now, if you're quilting on a sewing machine, don't worry, I'm going to have a follow-up video on how to use them on your sewing machine as well. Now, first up, the ruler. Now, when it comes to rulers, I'm actually pretty boring. I use a plain old straight edge ruler, and this is what it looks like. Now, this one is made by Handy Quilter. It's a nice straight edge ruler. It's more than 1/4 inch thick. You want to make sure you have a good quality acrylic ruler on your long arm. If you're using just your regular rotary cutter ruler, that's not going to work because your hopping foot might hop over. Now, for the video, I actually used this ruler, which is another one that I've used in the past, a nice straight edge ruler. It just shows up in the video a little bit more. But mostly I'm looking for a ruler with a nice long edge. I don't want it too wide because I'm usually just holding it in my hands and using it to quilt straight lines. Another thing that you might want to consider getting is an extended base. Now, what an extended base does is it helps the ruler by giving it a stable area to work with. So this clamps under your machine or on your machine under the quilt and kind of lets you lay the ruler on there and gives you that more stable surface. Now, the one drawback to this is it does add a little bit of drag to your machine. So let's say you're doing a lot of free motion quilting and just a little bit of ruler work. Well, in that instance, I would probably just leave it off. If I was doing a lot of ruler work, then I would just pop it on and use it. Now, when it comes to actually using the ruler, I have a couple videos. One in which I'm showing how to use it and some other clips on how to use it in different ways to get the most out of it. So let's see how we use the rulers on a long arm. So when it comes to using a ruler on a long arm, one thing I want to point out is that you never want to push down too hard or grab it too tightly. You want to hold it firmly in your hand and use it as a guide. I'm not necessarily pushing it against the machine or pushing the machine against it. It's just merely there to help the hopping foot kind of stay on track. But one other thing that I want to point out is that I'm not going too far to the edges of the ruler. Even though the ruler is a good 10 to 12 inches long, you don't really want to get too far to one end, because if you don't have a ruler base at the bottom, what will happen is that other end will pop up and might get in the way of the needle. So even though I have that full area, I'm just using a part of it. And again, just not gripping too tightly and using it more as a guide. Now in this back and forth line, I'm just filling in the area, and this is what helps me keep those lines nice and consistent. If I were quilting these lines, let's say, further apart, I wouldn't feel the need to have a ruler for it. Another thing I like to use the ruler for is to help me space my lines out nice and evenly. And here I know that if I run the foot of the machine along the ruler, I'll have a good 1/4 inch line. You can also use a ruler as a guide. So here I'm not using it to quilt straight lines, I'm just using it to help me keep that design in the area that I want it to stay. And lastly, another thing you can use your ruler for is to combine it with free motion quilting to make designs that look interesting and straight but are easy to quilt. And here you can see that I'm just using the ruler in those portions that I need it, then backing it up, quilting the star shape, and then putting the ruler back in. So you don't have to use the ruler for the whole design. And actually, for something this short, I might try freehanding, but if you were particular and wanted to make sure it was nice and straight, that's an option that you have as well. Now that I've given you a few tips on how to use a ruler on your long arm, I want to take just a moment to tell you when I would use a ruler. Now, for the most part, I use a ruler anytime I'm quilting a diagonal line of any length. I cannot get it to look even close to straight without a ruler. Or if I'm quilting a straight line that's about this far or bigger, I find that shorter lines can usually be free-handed and look straight-ish, which is definitely close enough. But for longer lines, I'll definitely go with a ruler. So for more free motion quilting tips and tricks, please check out my website, quiltingismytherapy.com.